Rod Bristow, President of Pearson UK and President of the Publishers Association. You're halfway through your term, I think. Welcome to the London Book Fair podcast.
Thank you, Liz.
Now, trade publishers were much slower to embrace new technologies than you academic folk. And when they did, they seem to have spent a lot of time with their heads buried in some DRM and discussion about platforms. Why is that, do you think?
Quite honestly, I think that is a really unfair criticism of trade publishing. In fact, if you look at what's happened, there's a complete transformation taking place now in trade publishing, with e-books taking a really growing share of sales overall. I think you could equally argue that trade publishers have timed it perfectly. You know, when all of the devices are actually available that people can use to read e-books, with Kindle and with iPad and the like, they've really timed it very well, and things are going well. That opportunity for academic publishers was a different kind of opportunity, and I think the reason why academic publishers moved into digital publishing sooner is because they had an opportunity to do things that trade publishers really didn't. So I think it's much more to do with the nature of the market that academic publishers operate in, rather than that they are necessarily more brilliant than the trade publishers, although as an academic publisher, and rather I would say an education publisher, you know, I might like to think we are, but I don't think we are. I think it's more the market.
I mean, commentators like Mike Chatkin say that general publishing is inevitably more challenged by digital change than academic publishing. Is that because of the legacy issues that are part of general trade publishing, do you think?
You know, I really used to think, I used to feel sorry for colleagues who were working in trade publishing, because I thought it was incredibly challenged compared to education publishing, with, you know, being squeezed on the one hand by huge sort of royalty advances, and then being squeezed on the other hand by increasingly powerful chains of booksellers, and it did feel like a difficult place to be. But I think that in the digital world, the opportunity for trade publishing has been transformed. I think trade publishers have a wonderful opportunity now, because in the world of digital, you have much more of an opportunity to connect with your customers. And you know, with creativity and innovation with technology, you can provide fantastically exciting e-books and other digital products and apps and services to customers. So I think this is a sort of a new, in a way I would see it more as a kind of a new lease of life for some of the more challenged trade publishers. There's another opportunity now to go to market with a whole new set of products and services that they weren't able to in the past.
But academic publishers, of course, aren't encumbered, if we can use that word, by agents seeking those big royalty advances that you spoke of, and by the structures and strictures, and what I suppose we could call vested interests. That must give you quite a lot more flexibility, in fact, because you're not sort of dealing with agents who are saying, you know, oh, we want X percentage, or you're much more in control, aren't you, of your destiny?
I think the challenges in education publishing are just really a little bit different. You know, from an education publishing point of view, if you were to look at, and I'll just pick the UK as an example, but I think this goes beyond the UK. If you were to look at the industry data on sales of books in the last 10 years, it doesn't look great. I mean, there is real pressure on sales of books into education. And I think the reason for that is that students and schools are making different choices now. They're seeing that there are other things that they can get involved in. Very, you know, often they've got other pressures on their budgets. It might be that, for example, if you're in a school, you've got to pay for more teaching assistants, or you've got to renovate the school, fix the school roof, or whatever. But there are also other ways that they can get content, and the internet is changing everything. The ubiquity of content is a phenomenon that all education publishers are having to get to grips with. So these are challenges, but on the other side of it, there are really enormous opportunities, because with digital, you can do so much more than just provide content. I think it's really important that we remember that when we are involved in education publishing is to remember what we are actually doing. We're trying to improve education or to improve learning in some shape or form, and that's where the opportunity lies. There's so much more you can do with technology that you can't do with a book. So there are challenges but great opportunities.
I mean, when we talk about digital publishing, because we're not simply talking about online publishing or publishing textbooks that can be read on iPhones and so on, we're also talking about print on demand and short run. Those aspects of digital publishing must provide quite a lot of benefits for, I suppose, academic publishing, particularly because you can be very fleet-footed and you can do short run, you can update stuff very quickly, especially, I suppose, in sciences where material updates more quickly.
There's no doubt that that digital publishing, using digital technology to publish, has improved the flexibility that publishers now have to tailor what they provide to their customers. So that is a tremendous innovation.
For publishers and their authors, in fact, isn't it? Because academics.
Absolutely, you can keep stuff in print longer. You can customise it, and I think in higher education in particular, custom publishing has been a real phenomenon in the last sort of 5-10 years.
And by custom publishing, we're talking about sort of perhaps professors who want particular things put together as a course textbook, aren't we? In many ways, are there downsides to that as well as being? Does it detract from sales of complete, traditional textbooks as we know them?
Well, of course, it does literally. I mean, if you are going to sell a customised product, then they won't be buying the other one.
Yes.
But and I do think this has been something that publishers worry about a lot, is this idea of cannibalisation. And I think it's something the lesson to be learned here is, don't worry about cannibalisation, because if you don't do it, someone will do it to you. And if the customers want something that's more tailored, then it's really important that you as the publisher are the person to go out to provide it for them, even if you're concerned that it's more complicated, that your profit margins are going to be slightly different, the business model will need to change as a result of doing that. It's really important that you get out there to do that.
How are academic publishers using social media? That's something that trade publishers have actually learned to do quite well. I mean, social media, online forums. How are the academics themselves and their publishers using social media?
It's a great question. I don't think we necessarily, any of us, really understand the full potential of social media. We're all using it. I mean, I'm sure if you go on the websites of all of the education companies, you will see, Twitter feeds, Facebook links and the like, and we certainly are involved in that. For me, the most important aspect of this is not to see those media necessarily as a form of marketing only, but rather to see them as a way of building communities of interest, communities of common interest. And if we have that mindset, then I think that is the way to go.
Now, how do you see digital development in the consumer market impacting on the more mature digital development in your sector?
Well, as I said, I think the students increasingly, and this is particularly true in higher education, are behaving like consumers. I mean, the students are increasingly exercising more of their own choices about the kind of education that they want. So I think adopting that consumer mindset is a very healthy thing for education publishers to do. And I think in some respects we will see a convergence between the way that consumer publishers operate and education publishers or education companies operate in terms of the richness, the interactivity, and the real value add that you can provide using technology. So I think we will see a convergence, and I think that it will be the case that the education publishers can learn something from trade publishers, and I'm sure the other way around is true too.
Rod Bristow, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.